and welcome back to chapter 3, lecture number 13. So in this lecture we're going to work with a translucency shader, and as a little project we're going to make a leaf material and making this transparent and adding the translucency shader. We're also using a back-facing node to put the texture on both sides, so we have rear and front texture on it. So a quick overview: making a double-sided material, building a new node tree, so we start from scratch, adding a transparent shader using the back-facing node, so that's something new I will introduce, using the translucent node, organizing your tree with frames. So that's it. So let's turn to Blender. So quick check if we have enabled the node wrangler. So I created a new file. Yes, it's there. Always good to know. So I use the same sphere as I used for the brick and plaster texture, but I removed the material and created a new one and call this leaf. Okay, we remove the diffuse, go to add, shader principled, there it is, and we put this in the surface. All right, so to have a quick view, go to material. So I want to add an image texture and start building the tree. So we start with add, texture, image texture, there it is, and we pick a leaf texture. So organic, and you'll find this in the course lecture, download, yes, there it is. Okay, so what I want to do is this leaf is transparent. So if I put this into the base color, it will turn a little bit weird. And that's because the base color has no alpha input. So we need to add a transparent shader to make that work. So we go to add, shader, transparency, transparent, there it is, and a mix shader. And unfortunately the principled shader does not cover this transparent shader, so we need to add a tree behind or after the principled shader. That's not a big deal. It includes a lot of cool things, but this needs to be there. Add shader, mix shader, put it right there. We put a transparent in this input, and the alpha, so the transparent values, are going in the factor. So it looks a little bit weird. If we go to render, it looks like this, but if we turn them, we can see the leaf texture. So if you build a leaf, this is how it works, and pretty nice. But there are a couple of things that I want to change. First of all, these leaves are not casting a translucent shader. So it's just a solid plane and not casting some green light through the ball. So that's something I want to change. So what we do now, and is fixing it a little bit, like so. I select this mix shader, I press Shift D, and I put it right there. The translucency shader needs to be before the transparent. So add shader translucent, we put it right there. So that's good. And you can see a factor, and that's the value, how much translucency you use. Well, we keep a value of 0.5, but the color, we can change that. And there are two ways to do that. That's by picking a green color. Well, that's a little bit too much, like so. This is one of the ways. So you can see a really nice green color, and the reason that this side is more green than the other one is that the light is coming from the top left. That explains it. What you can also do is using the real color value and put it right there. So it won't be that extreme, but it will still be a translucency effect, but just more smooth. So, but yeah, let's keep it like this. So we now have a texture on the parent shader and the translucent, and we mix them, and that's good so far. And in fact, we're done, but I want to go one step further, one more advanced step, and putting a texture on the other side, so the rear texture. There are options for that, so why not using it? Before we go into that step, I want to add a bump map. So change this to non-colored data, and we pick the bump, or what say the spec from the front, and we put this into the specular value. So that will remove this glossy fake look, really good. So I'm going to do the following. I copy this whole tree, Shift D. The only thing I change is the front texture is going to be leave for rear. So I'll select it, open, and the specular can be that one. So this is the real rear of the leaf. And now we need to combine these two together. So how that works is just duplicate this mix shader, combining these two. But we need to put something in the factor, because right now it's still using 50% of this tree and 50% of that tree. So we need a sort of a converter, and that can be achieved by adding input geometry, putting it right there, and there is the back facing. And back facing allows us to use this texture on top. So this is the front, and on the rear you can see the other one. So if I put this one, that's only the front, and you can see that right there. If I use this one from the rear, only the rear is visible. But if we put them back in position and we put them in the surface, it will use the front texture and the rear. It's exactly what we want. Pretty good. So, and in fact, this is the tree that is finished. So texture on the front and on the rear, and using the translucent. To get an idea how this looks on a white plane, so I'm selecting this sphere, Shift D, and I remove it, new, so it's a white plane. And now I can make a render, and this green ball shows you that translucency is working. It's needing more samples to render it. And if you're not fully convinced, we can just make this little hack and put this out. And now it's a real rough sample, so it's visible that the leaves are casting. But I do not really like this fluoric color. So yeah, we put this back in. So back in the translucent. Oh, there we go. All right, good. Final step is putting everything in frames, and that works as the following. Copy this, Shift P, calling this like F6. Oh, that's odd. You need to Shift P, F6. Yep, without touching any other button. Label, this is front textures. And let's pick the orange. And for the rear, we press Shift P, F6. Well, that's really annoying. Shift P, F6, rear. Yes, and let's pick a more bluish color, like this is good. And these two nodes, let's put them Shift P, F6, 3 times in a row. How can I do that? Shift P, F6, and that's the back facing. Was it back facing? Let's make this a sort of a pink look. There you go. And we can name it like we did before. Rear, it's already named. When we increase the size of the font. File user preference. I turn it back, but making it wide again. Yes, there we go. Front, rear, and back facing, just to be sure everything works. So that's the lecture about transparency and translucency. I hope you liked it, and in the next lecture we continue with materials. See you there. Bye bye.